boost ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and The Bean universe. Lesbo and The Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and The Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 156, Ricochet recap. We had a holiday event. If you were over on the East Coast, you're waking up at 3 a.m. If you were on the West Coast, you were probably just staying up and rallying till the wee hours of the morning. A lot of people fell out. A lot of people felt that European scene, which I have a new respect for, especially after long nights of drinking and regaling with the family. Since then, how have you been, Lesbo? We had a little break.
I fell in and out. Every quick finish, I would doze off in between and wake up during a different fight and fall asleep. It was a really hard one for me, and usually I don't have problems with those weird hour cards, but it was in a weird time spot. It was almost like I had to force myself to go to bed early on a Friday night to get some sleep in between.
That's exactly the way I felt, and I felt like that benefited me, but it was I had a lot of family stuff to do, so I ended up using the fight card as my excuse for people to leave me alone. And even though it was at wee hours, I had an excuse to go to bed early for the same thing, to get a couple hours of sleep. I kept seeing on Twitter a ton of people falling out because they were trying to keep it going from Friday night. And at 3 a.m., the Mr. Nighttime catches up with you, or the sleep monster catches up with you very quickly. It was an exciting fights morning, I guess, out of Beijing, China. China profiled a bunch of Chinese fighters that we are going to see have a little bit of longevity in the UFC. We're getting a lot of talent deep in there. The announcers, it was Dan Hardy and his cohort there. I can't ever remember his name. But they did a fairly good job. Usually we like to shit on them, and I think that these two guys, they're one of those tag team couples where they put together a good show and have never really... You can send them anywhere in the world.
I don't feel like we ever dog Dan Hardy and the other dude we can never remember his name.
Yeah, agreed.
I think we always give them props because Dan Hardy's my real boyfriend over Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Why do you only have to have one boyfriend?
Exactly. That's so kill the patriarchy.
So, we have tons of other MMA news to get into. We're going to more recap kind of the week that's been going on because we had such historic events like Liddell Ortiz and the De La Hoya cocaine sequence.
And we would be doing the Tough House for you, but if you're a fan of the Tough House, I just found this out, is that we don't have all the fights to break down for you yet because
they haven't aired the featherweight title elimination bout for the finale, and they still haven't finished putting about 4 fights where they usually on these Tough Houses, because we have a Friday card and a Saturday fight night, so a double-decker weekend for you in fights. This is the holidays hitting it hard. With these Tough House, they're going to put about 4 fights on the card that haven't even been posted to Tapology or the UFC yet, either Tuesday or Wednesday. Once the episode airs, I believe it is Wednesday night, we should probably... Are we going to end up doing a double card breakdown where we're just going to have to double release 2 episodes, not back to back?
Either they'll definitely be double episodes, but they might come out of order.
Okay, I like that.
But we try to label everything okay. We try to do it well enough that you know what one you're getting into.
What prediction sequence. So remember to like and subscribe.
But it'll just be too much to put on the one, because the longer we've been doing the show, the more winded we've realized we've been getting naturally, where we're like, holy shit. Like, we'd actually talked a long time that time.
Right. And about that hour sweet spot, I feel like that's where we want to be. It's good for us and the fans.
Yeah, no one seems to be complaining about it. Everyone seems to like that
time
span all right.
Totally. So Beijing started off the night with Luis Smolka debuting, or coming back to the UFC.
Are we going to talk about any, we know Woodley Covington's booked.
Definitely. I think we can get, just as we go, get into it in the sidetracks. cut it off because we always got the fight card to go on. But T Woods officially is fighting Colby Covington. Interesting. I know that Colby's wanting to be the heel, but the heat's getting hot. Like,
Is
I'm
that
seeing a
official?
lot. I've seen it's official, or that there's been serious, legitimate talks about it. I feel like it's official, unless somebody made a poster that looked UFC quality to me.
Do you think it'll be on the same card as Robbie Lawler, Ben Askren, or do you think it'll be separate, or do we already know it's separate for sure?
We do not know whether it's separate or not. I don't think Askren officially has a fight yet. I think there's just been a lot of
I thought it was
talks
Robbie Lawler. Is it official with Robbie Lawler?
I think it's speculation as well. Like, we know they've had talks, but we don't know if those contracts have officially been signed. And I feel like that might be where we're falling in with Tyrone Woodley versus Colby Covington. It's still just talked about.
UFC
But
233, January 26, 2019, welterweight Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren.
Official.
Is official
All
on
right.
as far as
I love it.
the Google. And what was the other one we were just talking about? Covington
Woodley.
Woodley is I don't see. Covington says he's ready to fight T. Woodley on a day's notice 4 days ago. So maybe that's not official yet. T. Woodley title fight at 233 on January 26th, says Covington's manager.
So,
Who knows?
to be announced opponent, but
Yeah.
from what it looks like, the way that the Twitterverse and the MMA community's been chattering, that's the fight to make. Everybody wants to see that fight. Everyone wants to see Colby get shut up, and that's a testament to him understanding how to sell pay-per-views.
And if you think T. Woods is the most underrated guy, but he goes in against the craziest people and doesn't even get touched.
I would agree with that. I've always been a big backer, not necessarily always, but I have come to understand that Tyron Woodley is a much greater fighter than people like to hate on because he dabbles in the rap game and other stuff and movies, but he really has a star-studded background of opponents that he's had to fight in the UFC. When we bring up Colby Covington, I feel like we can't get around with the controversial documentary that was just put out with your very own president, Donald J. Trump, and the UFC having a mini documentary on Fight Pass.
Is his middle name James?
I don't know. I just know it's
J.
Jay. And I could be wrong on that. I just felt like I had to throw in the middle.
I would say Donald P. Trump.
I have no comment. So have you heard MMA community's really been bashing UFC for, I don't know if it's idolizing it or putting in a good community. I feel like it's history. Regardless of him being president or not, Donald Trump had an effect on the early life of the UFC, and whether you feel about him or not.
There's other people that love it, but they're just scared to say anything online because social media tends to lean one way.
Totally.
IMO.
I feel it's just a history piece, and I'm not seeing the UFC in a bad light. I think that they should pay their fighters more, but maybe they learned something from Donald when
And is Colby
hanging out.
buying his full character? Like, is he just totally selling in like WrestleMania?
That's what I'm saying, because it all ties together.
Lighten up, MMA community. Lighten up.
Agreed. It's not that
Khabib
big
can
of a
take
deal.
a picture with Putin, but Colby can't take a picture with Trump.
Good point. Good point. So these are all the background things that we tend to talk about here in the MMA community.
Now we're shadow banned for talking about Russia and China.
And all that other stuff.
Where this is the China episode.
It is. So you know those tariffs. What was that tariffs jokes? Because if I saw anything that was loose, it was the juice in China. There was some.
They don't have to pay the tariffs on the THC, I was about to call it, on the PED. No PED tariff in China.
But we started out that Beijing card with Luis Smoka versus debuting Su Menduri, the monk himself, and second round armbar. I feel like the first round really showed why Smoka was the coming back veteran in the UFC, and how I was saying -4 or -200 wasn't enough on Smoka. I think he should have been more. Smoka maybe ate too hard left hands and a couple elbows after he shot in some takedowns, because Smurin was throwing some really nice elbows. A lot of people defending that takedown now with elbows. We saw that constantly all night long. But once it was to the ground, Smoka just rolled, covered him like a blanket, eventually got that armbar, and that really helped me out on my DraftKings card, getting such a big, I feel like, value on DraftKings for Smoka.
I had Luis Smoka as well, and it was kind of scary to put him on cards so high because he has a hit and miss record of lately, but he did exactly what he should have done in that fight.
Totally.
Everything about it was like, yes, a guy with this much experience against a guy with no experience, yes, he should come out and dominate. And he did, and I was excited, and I was glad I also trusted Smoka on my cards.
I like what I saw from the Chinese fighter in there because I do think that Smoka is sneakily way better competition. So as young of a man as he is, I think that, again, he's going to grow leaps and bounds. He's going to probably get some of that exposure, go down to either Wink, Alpha Male, or one of those teams that has ties to China. So, fun addition to the UFC. Same with Smoka. I see a top 15 immediate back into the UFC at 135. Loved his weigh in as well. Loved how he looked at 135.
He looked a lot better.
Definitely.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I'm interested in Luis Smoka again. And it's perfect timing because we're seeing that Hawaii card right on the horizon.
Totally. He is training out of Team Oyama as well. I feel like we touched on that a bit. But sneakily, we're going to see names coming up on a bunch of cards. They got a stable of those lightweight women and lightweight guys really coming through the scene. On to Kevin Holland over John Phillips, the most favorited fighter of the night on DraftKings and betting-wise. Holland, losing his debut with short notice against Thiago Santos, came in and rolled against John Phillips, who looked a little like he had a little extra English muffin in the tank there. He looked a little soft to me. Good cardio, but punched himself out, winging a lot of punches. You could see why Holland was such a big favorite. At times, though, I didn't like what Holland was doing striking. He was throwing a lot of good body shots with those knees and kicks to the body, straight up to the face, but Phillips ate all of those shots. Once it went to the ground in the third round, Holland rolled, where I feel like he could have done that in round 1 or 2 and won that fight. So questionable IQ, because there was times he was getting tagged by Phillips in there where...
I think he's so young, though. I liked everything I saw as far as, like, this amount of fights in the UFC.
Totally.
A lot of pressure. Fighting at a really weird fucking time for, like, imagine training at a certain time. And you can do certain things in the U.S. to adjust it, but not really. Not really. So I was kind of, I think the amount of damage they both took, I think they both could be sneaky plays later on.
Interesting. I don't know if I liked Phillips, the way he looked. He was really winging punches.
He's somebody I don't think he'd win, but the amount of damage he could take if he's super cheap, he might be the perfect person on like a DraftKings card to put other great people on.
He almost won a decision.
He's not good on a parlay, but maybe a DraftKings card.
Totally a good call.
Yeah,
there.
right? He almost did win the decision.
No, I think it was going to be a 30-27. What I was going to say was go to decision with a good strike output, because he didn't stop. For as soft as he looked, he moved forward in a losing battle most of the time, which you got to admire that in a fighter.
Okay, I'm going to try to interject things with a little more lube into the conversation about news going on. So speaking of the 185 division, did you see Israel Adesanya just booked a fight?
Versus Anderson, the Spider, Silva. How do you feel about this?
This is what I think. 3 to 5 years from now, it's good for legacy to have beaten Anderson Silva on Israel Adesanya's record. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not too excited about this fight for him. In all aspects of the fight, in my opinion, he should win. And I just think this sets up for the Chris Weidman fight next.
I totally see that as well.
I would have rather this been Chris Weidman 3. Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman 3, actually. And that is, like, replayed enough.
I think that where we say a lot of times, give these young guys good fights, don't throw them in there against beasts. This is kind of one of those perfect stepping stone decisions. Anderson Silva always has name value, and you've seen it with Chris Weidman and many other people that have even made it close with Anderson Silva. That rub comes off. Now, this is a very winnable fight for Adesanya, so if he finishes Anderson Silva, it becomes a highlight for of all time, because Anderson just gets into there. And I feel like this perfectly ties into one of the biggest travesties, because this is almost a legend fight versus a young up-and-comer. It's a changing of the guard.
I just think the Stylebender is the future.
Totally.
The more I keep watching his fights and... it almost doesn't do justice. Something I'm starting to realize is being able to watch something back with the slow motion and you're like, holy shit. Like, Max Holloway is somebody that comes to mind when I also think about this, but Stylebender, a big thing. Sometimes in all the fast movement, it looks like they're in a scrap. But then when you slow it down and look, you're like Stylebender or Max Holloway or Tony Ferguson. They didn't take any damage or get hit once.
Yep.
It looked like it in all the melee. But now that we watch it in slow motion, you're like, holy cow.
So that's what Anderson used to be. Adesanya has literally said, I used to watch Anderson when I was a kid fighting in the UFC. Now I'm in the UFC. So again, what do we see what happens usually with that? Stylebender has been practicing to fight Anderson Silva since he was 15 years old. He's always said, if I could fight Anderson, I'd be the greatest. He's getting that opportunity.
The game plan.
Yeah, he already knows what to do. So, again, he's going to use Anderson as a stepping stone here.
And this is what you're going to hear everyone say. Remember, Anderson's he's still Anderson Silva. And yeah, you're going to hear everyone try to like add that level of comfortability to their pick of just being like, Israel Adesanya all day.
Yeah, there's no way I don't see
Anderson
myself picking.
Silva is a legend.
Right, exactly. He's fought the best, but they're going to show all of his highlights of like
Chuck Liddell.
10 years ago. So that's where I felt like I was going to tie it into perfectly with the Legends fight that we did have over this weekend. How do you feel about this whole... First, let's start off with one of the funnest press conferences we've had in a while. We have the cold Oscar de la Cocaine definitely having just if you know anything about MMA, you know about these two, Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell. Am I doing it any justice? What ended up happening there? Do you think that he was on drugs or was it just cold in the arena?
I am so uncomfortable with him altogether. I'm uncomfortable with his persona. I don't know what his, like, I don't know if it's his shtick, like if it's his own, you know how Don King had a shtick. Like, if he's just trying to own some sort of crazy promoter, like, I'm a crazy wrestling promoter, you know, kind of thing.
He's never been this way. I have always felt like De La Hoya before in promoting, because he's at Golden Boy for a while. He was very
like
clean
handsome.
cut. He was very Mario Lopez, but now it's been like, the drugs are catching up.
Oh, man.
You can see it in his chin.
And... Golden Boy MMA. The future is Golden Boy MMA. Like, oh,
and then you can't
I
even
really hope it's not. And I'm kind of irritated because everyone's like, I wish I didn't watch that. That's sad, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, blame yourselves. Blame yourselves. You all turned it on. I did not turn it on.
I did watch the immediate GIFs replay, though.
I did, too, because they were all over my Twitter.
Yeah, all over the Twitter, and it was sad. I got to watch the entire fight immediately afterwards on Twitter, and Chuck Liddell, if you watch the weigh-ins, you could just tell he looked like an old man in there. That as stiff as his body. Did you see him with his projected belly just...
I watched him on an interview
gone.
with Brennan Schaub on Below the Belt, or his podcast, right beforehand, like the week of, and you can tell he has traumatic brain injury.
100%. You could watch where he got it. And he was notorious, one of those guys who had knockout brawls a week before his fight. In like the gym, people know Chuck Liddell used to go in there and scrap before title bouts.
Shame on you, Oscar De La Hoya. Shame on you.
It was gnarly.
Like, karma is a nasty bitch, Oscar De La Hoya.
It was super, super gnarly.
May you never have to fight again. Like, I hope Oscar De La Hoya makes enough money that he doesn't ever feel the necessity to get back in the ring. That
it's not going to happen.
Sad for Chuck Liddell. And does the brain injury at some point make him make the decision to get back in?
Or does it limit him from making the right choice, which is to not get back in?
That's what I mean.
Right?
Is it like that
it enables him.
Yeah.
Because he's not thinking properly because he has
lesions. Somebody needs to take care
lesions.
of him and should have
banned him, and there's commissions as well. Like, it wasn't out of nowhere. This was a commissioned bout. So there was doctors that had to sign off on this.
And Tito, honestly, it would be like putting Tito in there against, like, let's say you put him in there against Daniel Cormier. I don't want to see Tito get beat like that. Like, I think Tito's too old to be in there against somebody 5 years his younger.
Tito Ortiz is 43, which we do have heavyweights that are 43 in the UFC or older. But how do you feel about Tito being a total Tito and being like, I'm back, I knocked this guy out, and showboating in there, and you're watching a grandfather fight. So,
and everyone's like, he fought Chael Sonnen, and I honestly, I still replay that fight, and I'm like, this is the most fixed fight I have ever seen in my whole life. I never seen fixed.
I don't agree with that.
This shit is crazy. This is the weirdest fight I ever seen. Still. Tito Ortiz just went in there and killed Chuck Liddell. Murdered him.
That's where I think Golden Boy actually goes with it. Chuck's out the door because whoever touches Chuck next, people are going to have a big outcry against. But Tito's going to have another fight against nobody on Golden Boy, and they're going to try to make Tito the face. Prediction in the beanball. Talking about it right now. That's what's going to happen.
He'll be the next headliner
MMA.
too. Who do you think he'll fight next? Like Dan Henderson?
Ooh, maybe. In that Legends category, Tito Ortiz has also been a promoter as well. He's going to take fights that he can win, not fights he can lose.
Do you think Dan Henderson just murks Tito? Or do you think it's that same?
I think it could be same. Because if we've known anything about Dan Henderson is he didn't like to train back in the day, let alone retired now. Like, please don't come back because he ain't going to... Please, no. I don't even want to think about that. Please, Henderson, do not even think about that.
Look, we just put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. You just made the bow.
I'm going to feel bad now.
Exactly. You know UFC's listening. You know Golden Boy's listening. They're like, oh, we didn't even think of that. That sounds like a perfect matchup for our boy Tito. And you know he's going to be clamoring for that because, again, no morals for Tito Ortiz. Known history with that man. On to the 115ers, we had Yatin Yao versus Shuri Kondo. This was a heavy favorite coming in a decision in that Beijing card. Kondo has lost 2 fights in a row now. Been pretty much outclassed everywhere. Yan looked good striking, really, again, key on nonstop, had tons of output even in the 3rd round. So she's someone that can put it together, but we just really haven't seen her takedown defense tested yet. So still, stylistically, gonna have to be really tentative with her, but I did like what I saw as far as the cardio. Kondo, time to get on Hattie here, sister. Sorry, you have just been kind of steamrolled a few times now. She does have 1 win in the UFC, 2 losses in a row. Maybe I am a little bit short. Maybe she shouldn't be out of here at a weak division at 115. But what do you think happened here?
Everyone's gonna stay because this is the division. A lot of these smaller divisions, they're going to build up in China. China's going to become the biggest, most important market, I think, in mixed martial arts. If it isn't already.
I could see that definitely.
So I think we're going to have a lot more of these weird fucking timed cards, and they don't give a fuck if America starts losing its... Right now we get lucky, and they build a lot of it around our prime time because we're such a commerce. We have so much consumer. Yeah, you're so right. So it's like... If they start overtaking us, even if only 40% of their culture becomes consumerist like Americans, their culture is so big, their people are so many that they can just totally overcome where it becomes more worth it. So I feel like I wonder how many eyes this card had on it and if this becomes a normal thing that we start having. The future is China.
Definitely. How did you feel about the fans in China? I felt like it wasn't completely full. I don't know the time frame they were fighting. I think it was their evening time, but it took a while to get a little full in there. Do you think that what you saw in the crowd and did you think the crowd was educated? You know how we usually are like Canada does a good job, New Zealand, like this exposure.
I thought they were all right. They seemed entertained. They were there.
I agree. Respectful. I didn't hear boos.
I mean, when I was like awake from sitting, when I didn't have a weak neck. Speaking of weak neck, you can follow us on Twitter at weakneckbaby and at Zoltanite on Twitter. So look it up. Or you can go to Lesbo and The Bean, and both of our names are in the little bio at the top. Let me wedge something in. Speaking of ladies, did we talk about Rachel Ostovich getting beat up already?
We have not, and that has been on the tip of everybody's tongue for the last few days. There was a second-degree attempted murder charge that had a warrant
Holy
out for
shit,
his arrest.
I did not know that.
It was downgraded to an assault charge once he was in custody, but that's what they used in order to be able to just go into
Reel him
people's
in.
homes. Well, no, now they could not even ask a family member and say, we know he's in there, and just go right through the door. Might be a little off on that, but I'm pretty sure that's why they over-accentuate some of those charges. But, so he broke her orbital bone, which now officially Ostovich has fallen out of the Paige Van Zandt fight, which we have Macy Barber stepping in on, trying to step in on short notice.
I'm like, is that real? I know
No,
she tried to call out, but I thought
she's been-
PVZ turned it down.
Oh, dang it. I hadn't seen what PVZ's response had been, if any at all.
I'm like, she signed that? Holy shit.
So she did not officially sign that, unfortunately, but I'm liking Macy trying to take that fight.
I'm okay with it. Is
So-
that horrible? Like, we just want to watch PVZ get mauled? Is that what it boils down to?
Yes. Yes, it does. I want to see it for sure, but it doesn't matter. I just want to see PVZ fight in there. She does fight a lot, and she also boasts about on her own social media. Good for her. I'm not a big hater on her. So, what this does with, do we want to know what the juice is behind Ostovich? Do we want to get into that hot topic and put other people's business out there? Or just let it be and keep going on? Because it is dirt.
Is it?
Do you know what
No, I have
why
no
supposedly what
idea.
happened? Oh, this is my freaking TMZ. Or this is my, like, what is that?
TMZ. That
Gossip
was a good,
Girl
yeah.
or something? Like, I'm like, ooh, it's juicy.
XOXO,
Yeah.
The Bean.
For reals. So, going in to the back inner workings, ended up finding out why, ended up supposedly beating this, which I do not condone anything whatsoever of any abuse, any spousal abuse, to go either way. I don't condone a wife beating her husband. I still think that is abuse, for sure. Ostovich supposedly was sleeping with her husband's best friend. And that's what incited the fight. But there was also prior non-reported abuse charges, usually when her husband was drinking. But that's what I heard down the grapevine.
That's so shitty, but it's not enough to beat somebody at
Break
all,
their orbital bone when they have a
or even just
career.
beat them. I
Yeah,
don't know.
agreed. 100%. Be a man, get a divorce, or work
That
it
should
out.
be cray, but let's be real. Ostovich seems like a hard one to tie down.
I would agree.
That little filly. That little filly.
Wild horses do roam.
She might be too much for one man.
But so that's the dirt. Other TMZ.
Let's just
Twitter
like
dirt-
look at this picture.
Oh, I know. I looked at the pictures. I broke them down from head to toe. Reagan, you know how I feel about Rachel Ostovich here, but I'm just saying you can't put your hands on. No, that's not right. Especially as a fighter, you more so than most people should limit yourself because you know what you can do. People
She's
have
gonna
seen what
have
you
no
can do.
problems to find someone to take care
Oh,
of her.
in a heartbeat, and her baby girl, in a heartbeat, in a heartbeat. So.
There's men standing in line. I'll adopt your child.
Oh,
I'll take care of that.
exactly. I bet you there's a GoFundMe where she could just live off that.
Or I'm starting one today.
Yeah, exactly. So, the other Twitter dirt. This one was sneaky and dirty. It has to do with the chosen one, the Notorious himself. Did you hear anything on the IG rumblings over the weekend?
Nothing at all. I thought you should have snuck it in with one. You should have had to tie it in, but I guess you can tie it into the story. I think if we tied it into the card, it would be. But I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Tell me.
Because it's all Instagram based and it's
Did
all
you say
like
Notorious?
the Notorious Conor McGregor himself.
Okay, I'm interested.
So, because
Turn this green.
This is where I found out all the Ostovich information, and then I found a rumblings of Conor McGregor has a daughter with the mob organization that apparently had a hit out for him. Remember that time?
Yes.
One of those fathers he knocked up and now has about a 1-year-old daughter and
One of the dads? One of the dad's daughters.
one of the dad's daughters, one of the peon's daughters.
Okay. And
has a child with Connor, and she was talking about it on fire over the holiday weekend. Like, don't you forget me. Pictures, then people putting pictures of over a year ago. Kisses in the back rooms and stuff. Kiss on the cheek. No D in sight. This is what I heard, but this also attributes to why he got in a fight in that weekend in that town with, again, that family member who was apparently a cousin of hers, which this is all speculation I've heard.
Somebody was just like, hey, you need to take care of your kid. You deadbeat.
Doesn't it make sense?
You deadbeat dad. You had a deadbeat dad. What's this crack? You deadbeat.
100%. What does that do for you?
That's shitty. It seems like if he has the kind of reputation of being like a swinging dick, then of course he's going to have kids everywhere. Like, I think, whatever. But just take care of your fucking kids. You know? Like...
As we said before, that might be too much man to just hold down for one lady.
Yeah, the same way.
Same, right?
He's a lot of... That Philly, you're
hey,
going to have a hard time.
We've broken down those photos. We've broken down those photos. If you need to go back to Twitter and look out low and to the left. I'm just saying. Low and to the left.
Connor, he's got that... big dick Irish energy.
Is it IDR? What's that?
He likes to call it his leprechaun.
He's got a shillelagh down there.
He has a rainbow on his... That's what he should get, like a rainbow on his lower abdomen. It's like, follow it. At the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold.
You know where he gets that power from. On to the 35ers. We had a Chinese... not a debut fighter, but P. Yuan Louis coming against debut Martin Day and winning a split decision. Going into the second round, these guys were just scrapping back and forth, like what we saw from both of them. They both started to gas a bit. It was 1-1 into the third round, and Day lost the bout with a knockdown in the last 2 minutes of the fight. I didn't really take much away from it because they both were well-rounded fighters. They tested each other pretty well. Day has a lot of fun spinning attacks and stuff, but still that cardio, even from his past fights, does catch up to him. He was overseas, but I do feel like that China hometown cooking did end up helping him. I saw a lot of people on Twitter voting for Day as well, and if it would have been out of China, it would have been a split decision potentially the other way, but Louis won that split. Did you stay up for that one?
I didn't see it.
So, moving forward, still tentative on both guys. I don't think Day deserves to get out of there at all. Moving on to the 115ers, we had Li Zhang debuting against Jessica Aguilar at 115 pounds. Zhang steamrolled in 3 minutes into the first round, submission armbar, but that was set up via strikes in the clinch. Aguilar was cut with an elbow early on. That went to the ground, and it was pretty much Aguilar fighting off the submission the whole time. The Bean here had Aguilar as a huge underdog. I was wrong, and what are you going to do?
I did have Aguilar in a few of my cards because I thought that she wouldn't win, but it would go to decision. And so I thought it was more like, I listened and like she is wrestling heavy, but whew! Yeah, this fight I did see, and Weili made fast work of Aguilar for sure.
Definitely looked great in there.
I thought Zhang, she's like, to me, she could be the hottest prospect out of the Far East if they promote her, right?
I could see that.
She has a good skill set.
A couple of these Chinese ladies, I do believe it was Zhang, looked like a Sarah McMahon in there, though. For a Chinese fighter, was she to the T?
Oh, all
shoulders were as big as mine.
She was beefy.
Her shoulders were as big as mine. Like, I was like, Jessica Aguilar has her granddaughter in the back. She was feeding her some turkey and was like, oh, I gotta go fight later, honey.
Her granddaughter. That's true, too. And you never know.
But I'm just saying, poor Jessica Aguilar got knocked out of there quickly.
She was turning stew in the back.
Yeah, she's like, where's some more gravy? She doesn't have her teeth yet. So, where do you go with this? Zhang's going to be a nasty prospect at the 115ers. Aguilar, she's going to keep fights in there just on her name.
I think they're going to keep Zhang fighting out of the area. So we'll see her on Australian cards. We'll see her in Singapore cards. We'll see her in Japan cards.
No USADA. Tested
I
countries.
think maybe you're right.
Yep.
Maybe you're right on it. But you know what? I heard rumblings that USADA might be having a different role in the UFC in coming time. Like it might go back to a little loosey-goosey Bellator style.
I love that. I love it. If you're smart enough to get past the test, that's all I need. That's all I need. But everybody knows it as well, so everyone's on the same playing field. And if you don't want to do that to your body and beat somebody naturally, it just points to your legacy that much more.
Then is there a conspiracy theory that the whole thing was just really brought into place to keep John Jones under lock and key so they could sell the UFC for $4.5 billion, and when they cut off the John Jones head, Conor McGregor head grew back in its fight? I don't know. That was deep.
I do agree that it was for the sales purposes, 100%. Just to sell the company was to be like, see, we are civilized. So then we went to the 205ers. Rashad Coulter ended up missing weight by 3 pounds in China against Zhang Hu. Hu in there lost a unanimous decision in China in a very close fight.
China.
I thought it could have been a split decision at times. Rashad Coulter's leg was eaten apart. Those low calf kicks really coming in. We should have seen it coming because Hugh was at that Jackson Wink camp. So he was a human punching bag in there. There was times Coulter was landing heavy bombs, and Coulter gasped at the end of the first round. Just like before, I had Coulter in this, and I sweated at 4 a.m. in the morning when I had my significant other in bed because I had to wake up, set an alarm, and ended up just sweating, taking all of my sheets off, and just expecting this to go to split decision and Coulter to lose it. But the judges got it right this time. I thought it was 2-1 rounds Coulter. There was some judges that had it at 3-1. That is the last time I ever bet on Rashad Coulter. Q is just that low of level. He's young in the sport, so he has much more to grow, where Coulter's just set in his ways.
I sadly woke up for this fight, and I feel like it put me right back to sleep.
Yeah, it was a scary fight to watch. It was a
But I
remnant
agree
of
with you.
Halloween.
Even though I had Coulter to win KO round 1, I stayed so far away from this fight, I did not put Rashad Coulter on a card.
I did have Coulter on a few parlays because he was the underdog through the night, so I was able to put a couple of these underdogs together to cash a couple of fat little parlays, but this one was the one that made me sweat the most out of most of mine if they didn't come through. So we go to the 25 women's division. I feel like we were profiled. We had a lot of lady fights, and Yu Yan debuted against Lauren Mueller with a perfect record, 5-0. Mueller came in and shit the bed. I shit in the bed.
I shit on bus.
I shit on bed. Lauren Mueller, I had her. I was saying that, hey, she deserves to be a -400, if not more potentially. She should be able on the ground to not get submitted at all. And guess what? Immediately once they get to the ground, in the first minute, or in the first 4 minutes of the fight, Lauren Mueller gives up an armbar after she knocks down the white belt, Wu. Wu got her blue belt officially after that. And
Are you kidding? Blue belt?
I'm not joking. Go watch the replay
I
of
say,
it.
are you kidding? Like I'm rolling in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu video.
But still, Mueller is coming out of that wrestling United States scene where most fighters out of the U.S. could be blue belts in other countries, especially some like China that haven't had quite the exposure. But Wu is... Oh, man. It was a good fight. She looked strong in there. She had okay punches. I don't know. I should have... My Evil Twin was all off of Mueller this nonstop, saying she was fighting nothing but a bunch of cans, and she had fought 0-5 fighters. People like that. She did have a fight in the UFC. I might have put a little too much stock in there. What I didn't really like about the fight more than anything for Mueller was the travel might have affected her, but that armbar didn't look that deep in there. Then again, I'm just watching. It could have popped beforehand, but to me it looked like it was half bent, and if you would have just grit your teeth and circle the opposite way, like any good wrestler, you're going to fight through it. And then you make it a little longer of a fight. But to me, it looked like a quick tap, honestly. It looked like a way quicker tap than I liked. And I don't like to see that for anything. And I saw a couple ankles. So, where do we go with either of these ladies at 125 pounds?
I'm not excited about either. I just hope I remember.
Agreed. Then we go to my favorite underdog of the night. I had him all over. Alex Morono versus Keegan Song. That grindability really showed through why we like to bet on Morono usually as an underdog. Keegan, and he just got in Keegan's face or Song's face and just didn't let him get any punches off. Morono didn't have a particularly good striking style. He's always been very looping, but he makes up for it with tons of head movement for an entire 3 rounds and good takedowns with good fight IQ. One of the gnarlier eye pokes we've seen in a long time in the 3rd round. Did you happen to catch this one?
No, I did not.
So, in the 3rd round, after Morono, and by the way, Morono's corner, and Morono just ended up freaking really having great fight IQ. It shows in his corner. He runs his whole camps, but he's the type of fighter that's what he does. In the 3rd round, he's like, okay, I know what I need to do. Just keep jabbing him, beating him, striking, and take him down when I need to. And he had the presence of mind to be thinking that after the 3rd round, where Keegan's sucking air, and they're just trying to get his air win back from him. But that's why we like to bet on Morono. With a minute left in the fight, maybe 2 minutes, Morono takes a huge eye poke where he runs away, and you can hear him on camera yelling, I can't see. Mark Goddard stops the fight. The translators have to be called in with the doctor because he can't talk to the judge, and they almost call this fight off because Morono's just like, hold on, I can't see. And when you hear the way he was yelling, I could see other people calling it, fuck, like he might not be able to. But there was literally a minute left in the fight. So finally, Mark Goddard, right before they translated everything, Mark Goddard again checked with Morono because Morono was just like, I'm still blurry. And he's like, what? What did you say? Can you see or not? And Morono just sucked it up, said yes, and ended up winning a decided 3-round decision against Keegan Song. Song has a ton of power, but if that knockout shot doesn't come for him, he tends to wilt a little bit in there, but he can get lower level guys out of there. I just always have thought Morono's a dark horse in the division.
I think he's one to. I think he's going to be a sneaky underdog next fight too.
100%. Then we go to the 70-pounders, 170-pounders with Leech Liang fighting against short notice Zawad. Zawad has 2 losses now in the UFC in a row. Ended up getting finished in the 3rd round at 4 minutes and 7 seconds with a liver kick. Zawad had a good showing in there, good striking. The Leech got hurt in the 1st round, dropped to his back, and I really like Zawad.
I was nervous for a minute.
Yeah, right? But the Leech really came forward.
I woke up for this fight.
Nice, good call.
And I was actually nervous for a minute, for real, for the Leech at the beginning of the fight. I thought that, oh shit, because I did have the Leech on a lot.
I did too, play him a lot. And in that 3rd round, showed that cardio really coming in. That liver kick was gnarly. That's one of the few times you're going to see a standing tap. Zawad tapped on his own chest, and then when he fell to the ground and took more strikes to the head, tapped on the mat. I'm just saying, tap due to strikes. Not that I wouldn't, because I would have shit on Matt, and then I would have tapped the strike. So I'm not saying whatever, but it's just rare. It happens.
Animal.
Fuck yeah, he's a leech.
And I agree with you. Zawada did put in a very good showing. He isn't a guy by any means to make it to the end with that guy. It's
2 weeks notice.
Something, yeah.
2 weeks notice. Just saying. I don't think he should be out of there. He should get a fight that's a little easier next fight. He shouldn't be dropped out of that 170-pound division. Zawad, I like in there as well. So, moving on to Song, we have Yadong Song. Yadong Song, alpha male prospect at 135, really been showing us leaps and bounds. He also came up with a big martial arts background. Sage Northcutt, the Chinese Sage Northcutt, I like to call him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's a handsome kid.
He is, and he's bodied up. He just had a kid at 22 years old as well. But
I want him to get a tattoo on his neck, and I want to call him the Chinese Cody Garbrandt. Is that the same?
I like that. At 135, might they see each other?
That would be a stand-up brawl. I liked all the movement that I saw from Yadong Song.
I agree with that. What I didn't realize, Morales, Oregon native, whoop, whoop, but coming, I think, out of that Beaverton area. Either way, I was really boasting that I thought Morales here was a value play on my DraftKings because I thought it would go to decision. Everyone see it being a blowout, and I saw the value, not that Morales would win, just that this would maybe go over the 2.5 rounds, where a lot of people had this finishing, and Morales took a beating.
Song finishing in round 3, so I saw it going past 2.5 as well.
Nice. I did cash that prop bet in there as well. Morales did all right in there. He only got like 36 points on DraftKings, but he was so cheap that he did allow me to get a couple of other guys. I didn't win any tournaments this weekend, but I ended up winning my money back at least. Mueller, that was the one on my cards that really
I like
shit the
Yadong
bed.
Song going forward. I like both guys
Both
going
guys.
forward.
That's what I'm saying. Both guys I really like moving forward. It was a fun one in there. Definitely a profile Chinese fight.
Between, are we moving on to the next fight?
Yeah, I think so.
The time between after Alistair Overeem finished this fight and then the main event, I fell asleep.
A lot of people did because of that lull in the break.
And I also switched to Alistair Overeem knockout round 1 and didn't save it on my Tapology.
Oh.
I switched to it on Friday after, like, weigh-ins came on at a really weird time on Friday. Because it was, like a weird, like I saw it the following day.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. So,
but I did have Alistair Overeem on the DraftKings, and that was nice.
If you watch the weigh-ins, Alistair Overeem is back on the horse meat, and Sergey
and that's why he's going to be fighting overseas from now on.
Any of those, again,
We're gonna start
like a USADA.
Yes.
We're going to see Prime Reem again, which we did see Prime Reem again. He really... I loved what he was saying prior to his fight camp, saying, I'm getting away from the knockout shot. Is that Team Elevation with Curtis Blades, TJ Dillashaw, Quub Swanson. We're seeing all these Reign training Northern California fighters, and TJ Dwayne Ludwig touched guys, get back to their technique. And Overeem showed it. I was hoping we were going to get
sparring, more like scientific, precise training for them.
Especially the guy that we've been iffy about his chin for a while now.
And TJ's a smart guy. He's a really smart fighter. I think him and Dwayne have found their perfect head and body matches for it.
Does this confirm the speculation though, where the juice is loose over at Elevation? Overeem, we just said he's on the horse meat.
If there is about to be changes with USADA, here's just another conspiracy because you know how I like to do. If there is about to be these certain changes with USADA, would Dana White and the UFC let their favorites know about it? And could their favorites be somebody like TJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Ludwig, guys who play ball and sign on for any cards and take fights on short notice? You know what I mean? Could that be, they
like a backdoor agreement, a handshake agreement? There's no paperwork, just
no paperwork, just like,
know.
Hey, FYI, we're not testing for X, Y, and Z anymore, but it won't be official until after 2019.
Oh, here, we're sending these group of fighters to you, TJ, and here's all this Zenergy with them. You remember what Zenergy was back in the 2000s?
No, not at all, but I just think Alistair Overeem is one of the guys, he always plays ball with Dana and steps into short notice and gets murked.
Totally.
And even though we just watched Chuck Liddell and we know what head trauma's doing, we're like, put Alistair Overeem in again.
It's the truth. Funny story, I know I'm getting a little off topic. What Zenergy is supposedly Dana White was sponsored back in the mid-2000s by a company that was trying to rival Monster, and supposedly it said, Zenergy, what is that stuff? Not realizing that they were sponsored by it, and then saying like, oh, I know some people who pour that stuff out and fill it with Monster. And then they had a Monster contract soon thereafter.
Oopsie.
Yeah, so he has a bunch of Zenergy in the back and is like, here TJ, take this, here's these fighters.
Yeah, certain ones playing ball.
Where do we go with Overeem? I like him when the juice is loose again on that horse meat.
Well, good. I think because we're about to get Francis Ngannou Overeem too. I think it's good you like him if they're going to let him be on the juice because we're going to see him fight again.
Or do you see what everyone else is saying, that Ngannou immediately deserves another title fight because he just beat the number 2/3 contender at Curtis Blades?
I don't think he deserves it at all in the least, but I think Daniel Cormier sees it exactly like he saw the Ozdemir fight and exactly like he saw the Derek Lewis fight. He can take him down and win in a round, and it's easy money to be made.
And if Miocic did what he did, Daniel Cormier in his shape now will do it twice as hard.
Oh, yeah. Like,
Because-
without even having to train, he could still have the broken hand.
Yeah.
He can go in with the cast and still win.
Yeah.
And he knows it. And so it's...
He'll probably have a freaking turkey sandwich from freaking Aguilar and be like, all right, let me go. Let me put this down. I'm going to go fight right now.
Just mayonnaise and turkey.
Yeah,
Just leftovers.
with cheese and cheese
he'll
still.
be like, Jag, this is a good turkey
What?
sandwich.
You're fighting in 30 minutes, DC. I got it. I got it. I totally agree, and that's why I would say I like that Overeem
So I'm
fight.
not into it at all for Francis, but I just think the way the UFC is if Daniel's at the point with the UFC, and Dana wants so badly to get more fights out of DC. He wants him to fight John Jones. He wants him to fight Brock. He wants him to fight Francis. He wants him to fight Stipe again. If he could get that 3-4 fights out of DC again before he retires, he would fucking love it, because DC's always good for a main event. He always does at least,
Totally.
maybe 200,000, 300,000, which isn't bad for pay-per-view numbers. People are excited about DC. He puts heavyweights on cards at this point. But I don't like it for Francis. For the same reasons I didn't like this fight for Francis, though.
Right. It was the wrestling that we thought. And, I mean, this was a quick work at 45 seconds
do you want to
into the
skip
fight.
past? I don't really care about Pavlovich. We'll see him again and forget who he is.
It's the heavyweight division.
It's the heavyweight
Yeah,
division.
I agree.
Alistair Overeem, I'd rather him fight Ngannou than...
I feel like we transitioned perfectly into it.
Okay.
Again, 45 seconds, it was a quick one. Overhand right set up the finish. Curtis Blades tried to go to that single leg, but Mark Goddard getting in there right after that first punch, almost touching the fighters, and then eventually letting Ngannou just land some hammer fists. I thought it was the right stoppage. Of course, Curtis Blades fought it, but he was on wobbly legs immediately.
It was a brutal, because I think it also not only rung his bell, knocked him off balance. So
For
he
sure.
fucking face planted right into the canvas.
Totally.
I fell asleep before this, but obviously it was a short fight. I saw it,
The whole thing.
the whole thing on Twitter afterward. So he face planted. I thought it was just a tad early, even though I didn't know where he was going.
I
from
agree with
there.
that, but I was
But
betting Blades.
I was, but this is what I thought about it. If he could have survived that next 15 seconds, did you hear how fucking winded Francis Ngannou was in the
100%.
thing? That was 45 seconds of fighting. Where would he have gone after punching himself out? If Curtis could have survived that onslaught, which I think he could have, I think he won that fight all day. So I don't know if I was being biased or not, but I did think it was a tad early call.
I actually do kind of agree with that, because we've seen Curtis Blades flop that same way against Mark Hunt and other heavyweights, come back to get those single legs, which he immediately went for after that initial knockdown, held it, but those hammer fists again buckled his knees, and Goddard was already on. He was looking for a reason to stop
He
it.
already touched it.
He was
like,
already with hips in already,
yes,
essentially.
Yes.
But what I always dislike is that it's kind of like Tito versus Chael or Tito versus Ryan Bader, which once he gets in there against top competition who doesn't get out in there in the first minute of the fight, or Chuck, where they're like, he's back. I'm like, oh, I didn't show me enough. Let him win a 2-round knockout.
It's never
then you
going to
show
be
me it's
any
back.
different. There's nothing else for him to show you. You said it perfectly. He's got a minute, maybe two, of having that crazy power. He's not one of those guys that's ever going to be Derek Lewis, where he still can knock you out in round 5. I think that is impossible for Ngannou. I think he is just up here and just is a slow, like that power, he can't even lift his arms.
Yeah,
anymore.
totally can't lift his arms.
Where Derek Lewis saves up for 2 minutes and then you'll think he's dead.
He has
Like,
burst
oh, I'm
sprints.
so hurt. Oh, I'm so hurt. But I think he has a game plan with playing possum. I think Ngannou is just he's not cowboy. And I know a lot of the guys in the bigger divisions duh to say about him, but Ngannou isn't. I think Curtis Blade would have peaked around round 3. I think he would have slowly gotten better.
Yeah, it gets better.
I
Totally.
think Ngannou, it's like he has to be savage for that. And I think he's a very emotional fighter. I think he's very emotional and very hard on himself. So if he gets clocked once or taken down once, I think emotionally he goes down.
It's staircases.
Yeah, so I don't think we're ever going to see anything different. I think he's lightning. If you don't get hit by that lightning in the first 2 minutes of the fight, we're never going to see his game plan any different. We're never going to see him progress. I think he's with the same people from all the fights. I don't think anything's changed. Now he just has maybe emotionally he's gotten over the I need to please Dana White, I need to please the UFC or whatever his thing was.
And he did so. It's a highlight finish. Blade stays in the division. He doesn't fall all the way back. He's going to stay probably in that 5, 6 to 7 position. Maybe not even that far down the line.
So it's 10 cards right now for the UFC Ultimate Fighter finale, and we're waiting on 2 more. So it's going to be a 12-fight card.
I feel like there's going to probably be 4 more fights put on there. 2, and then they'll usually put like a fight that didn't happen on the season that they wanted to see. Like there's a heavyweight fighter, 31-year-old Mr. Green, they call him. The 6'7" fighter that's an alcoholic. Yeah, we all want to watch him fight. But we'll get into that breakdown later on in the week. Be sure to stay tuned wherever you can.
Like it, subscribe it, hit the bell so that you'll get the notification about it. And because we will have a bonus episode coming out this week because we're going to be breaking down the Ultimate Fighter 28 finale. And that Saturday is the main event. We know Dos Anjos Usman, which is a killer main event for the tough finale. Killer.
I cannot wait for that.
Sneaky good card. You were talking about it last week. Pedro Munoz versus Brian Caraway as the co-main. And then the third fight on that card, our girl Antonio Shevchenko versus Jean Yeon Kim. So there's some, and that's just a little taste of that card. And then, so what's the next fight?
And then after that is, I believe, 143 fight night. And that's going to be Saturday night. Main eventing with, ooh, you got me.
I know. Oh, you got me off. I'm right on here, so I'll look while you.
Because we
were so smooth for a minute. This is perfect time. So the Ultimate Fighter finale.
142. Fight night, 142, and that's going to be Dos Santos versus Tai Tuivasa is the main event. But again, I think the profile fight over the entire weekend is that Dos Anjos Usman. That's the one that I'm most excited for by far. But you know how we trust us on these kind of things.
Thank you guys for listening.
Lesbo and The Bean.
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and The Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.